We got to get together, bud, right? Folks, anyway, Steve Jeppy is going to be joining me on the show on June the 12th. I just grabbed this edition, How to Fix Baltimore. We're going to talk about it tonight. Chris Winter-Uris, thank you for tuning in. We're going to talk about this tonight. I have not had opportunity, Sherry Bias, thank you, to devour this article here about fixing Baltimore. I'm very curious, so we'll give that its just due. But again, we're going to have Steve Jeppy. We'll have the real deal here. Steve is the owner and the editor of Baltimore Magazine, and he will be with us live on June the 12th. The New York Magazine is Mr. New York Magazine, listening to the very old. So we're going to talk about this. Southampton, New York. Victoria, thank you. Victoria, one of my first acting modeling jobs was sailing from Venice on a cruise ship to Southampton, England. So when I saw Southampton, I thought of that. So anyway, that's why I was wondering where you were. Anyway, folks, it's 5:59. We're going to be with you in about 5 or 6 minutes. Thank all of you so much for tuning in this last Friday show in May. It's also Clint Mag is tuning in. Clint, are you in Florida? Are you in Savannah? I can't keep up with you, guy. This is the last May of my 50s. Believe it or not. I can't believe I'm saying that. Big birthday for me, guys, next month. Huge, huge, huge. 30, 40, 50 was easy, but here we go. Joe Pruka, happy last Friday of May. Tennessee, Valerie, thank you. Lee Renee McGinnis, thank you. Lee Renee McGinnis, Fatty Pants here. All right. Laura Bocook Pence, thank you. Marie Gallagher is in the house. Marie Gallagher, are you open? Can you do stuff out there on the Marie? Can you do stuff on the patio? I don't know if you can. I'll come down. If somebody wants to give me a massage or whatever out there on the patio, or what else do I do? A facial or something like that. Michelle can do that out on the street. Eddie Crow is tuning in, I think, from Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. So when is my birthday? Valerie, my birthday is June the 28th. Thank you. All right, it's about we're about 5 minutes away. Gene Barnett, thank you for always tuning in. I was out there walking up at Gilman today, and I got a little bit of color, so nice tan. Ronald Monk Jr. Hey, guy. Ronald, I hope you're doing well. Joe Pruka. Joe, we have got to get together. So you and I are both June birthdays, my friend. And I'm happy to say that you're always going to be older than me, Joe Pruka. So anyway, guys, tuning in here, we've got a lot of things to talk about. I'm sure everybody is staying up on everything that's going on. We added the Wall Street Journal. Regina Trackman. Hey. Regina, I want to get down there and see that office. We are scheduling massage appointments for June. Tim Mitchell is also in the house. Tim, thank you, guy. I really appreciate it. Tim, you've become a regular here. And I hope you and Joe, your wife Joe, are doing well. Lots of stuff to talk about, guys. What does everybody think about Donald Trump? Hey, Regina, what does everybody think about Donald Trump? And I'll call it the censorship, but you know what he's trying to do? It's very interesting because the people that are against what he's trying to do with Twitter and other social media outlets, Facebook restricts, you guys know this, and I'm going to talk about it. Carol Dye, thank you. Facebook restricts, they have the right to take down and to whatever things that we post on there. So isn't that, in its sense, freedom of speech as well? That Facebook has the right to take down and put up. Now I'm not talking about things like violence and all that kind of stuff. Colleen Arancia, Regina, thank you. Ronald Monk says hello to Regina Trackman and Carol Dye. Look at that. All right, guys, we got about 4 minutes, and we're going to be coming to you. I want to thank Anita Redmond. Give her a big shout out. Anita's barbershop. Anita's old-fashioned barbershop for cutting my hair. I made an appointment. We did everything. Did not wear a mask. You guys know how I feel about that, but Anita didn't make me. We were socially distanced and all that kind of stuff like that. But it's kind of hard for getting your hair cut when you got a mask on. Too selective. Mary Zimmerman, too selective. What does that mean? I don't know what that means, Mary. Too selective. The horses are racing again at Laurel Park. Did you see that? So I think as of this weekend, scheduled to resume this weekend, Laurel Park. So, all right. Listen, guys, the answer to what's going on in Minneapolis is not to burn targets down and all this kind of stuff like that. It's crazy. We've got to let due process run its course out there. We can't go looting. I saw this it's all over the place. It's in any paper you want to pick up, and that's not the answer to start looting and burning buildings down. We went through that with Freddie Gray here. Barwell's Graham, Mike Lossover, thank you for tuning in. Guys, we're coming in about 3 minutes. And again, if I don't give you a shout out, please don't be offended. I'll give you a wave or I'll give you a thumbs up. I prefer the wave, not a big thumbs up guy. But we've got a lot of things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about reopening the country, reopening the state. We're going to talk about all of our friends that are out there that are opening up their patios and restaurants that are trying to, it's not really back in business because these guys are hurting. It's interesting. As I look at the Baltimore Magazine, it says a love letter to restaurants, what we lose when we can't go out to dinner, and I want to talk to you about that. Minneapolis looks worse, I agree. All right, guys, we've got about 2 minutes. Michael Filippelli in my ear. Guys, I'm going to share some statistics with you that really kind of might blow you away and really put all of this into perspective. It's really pretty amazing. So it's all over. So you guys know where I go when I get my resources. I read a lot. I read a whole lot. So between magazines and books and newspapers, and the television really is my least favorite. I mean, I just can't handle all of the posturing, all the politicizing and everything. At least, and I know you've got conservative and you've got what you want to call liberal newspapers here, but I can decipher through that. The television stuff just really gets on my nerves. All right, guys, coming to you in about a minute. Mary, I agree. Facebook should not have control over our politics. It's very interesting. They're trying to attack the president for him restricting that, Mary, and I agree with you. Why should Facebook be allowed? Why should Mark Zuckerberg control what I want to say, as long as it's not violent or offensive or whatever? Penelope Garland from Wales, I believe, right? Wales, Penelope Garland, Wales. I think you win again tonight, Penelope. Guys, checking my notes. So if I'm not looking up at you guys, Show Rector, thank you so much. I'm going to make sure you guys keep me on my toes here. I'm going to make sure that everything is, we're moving along here. We're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. All right, this and this. Here we go, folks. We're coming to you. A little bit 6:06. Severe weather. Hey, everybody, here we go. Scott Collier is with me from Dundalk TV. Scott's here the second week in a row. However, I do think kindness in social media is... Oh, Mary, absolutely. Kindness in social media. Stephanie demands marks. Thank you. Guys, go download that app. Give me a call. I'm in the studio by myself tonight. Pastor Ray's not here. We send our... had a couple tragic losses. Pastor Ray is suffering. He told me from his allergies. So anyway, here we go, guys. .606 coming in right now. Here we go.
Radio 680 WCBM and WCBM.com are not necessarily those of the owners, management, employers, and advertisers of WCBM, but they should be.
The Bob Paff Show is brought to you by Bob Paff.
Feel better to Pastor Ray.
This is Talk Radio 680, WCBM, and worldwide at WCBM.com. It's time now for the Bob Paff Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Bob Paff Show, live talk radio on WCBM. The last Friday in May. I tell you what, today felt like June or July or maybe the dog days of summer. It was hot and humid out there. Anyway, welcome to the show. We've got a lot of exciting things to talk to you about. I'm going to get into some of the granular data about this virus. And again, as I've said to you guys so many times before, I kind of hate having to talk about it every week, but I guess we have to, and particularly now. So I want to send out my best wishes to all of my friends in the restaurant industry who are opening up tonight, whether you're in Baltimore City or Baltimore County, and it's all different. You know, the governor says everything can open, and then we've got our mayor of Baltimore says, no, you can't. And so you really need a scorecard to keep up with what's going on. But please, if you have the opportunity, and we're going to talk about people wearing masks and social distancing and all that kind of stuff. If you're afraid, and I've said it before, I make no judgment, and please don't judge me for my personal feelings about this. And when I share this data with you, it might change your mind a little bit. You might be a little bit surprised. But if people are comfortable going out, and they're comfortable, I wear a mask when I have to. Let me just tell you that right now. So if I walk into Eddie's or Growl's or the Giant or wherever I happen to be, and I have to put on a mask, I do. Otherwise, I do not. And I walk in, I put it on the second I walk in, and I take it off the second I leave. That's just who I am. And I've heard, and I'm going to get off on this tangent a little bit, you know, people are comparing masks to seatbelts. Wrong. They're comparing them to construction boots, somebody said. They're comparing it to helmets when you're on a motorcycle. No. You know, you have to wear your seatbelt. It is the law. I don't believe it's the law in all 50 states, but you know, you do that while you're on your motorcycle driving from point A to point B. The push here that really scares me is this becomes the new norm, and everybody just thinks, oh, let's be safe and let's wear these masks wherever we go. Let's talk about it. The mask, I was going to talk about this later, but let's get into it right now. You can tell me, you can call me at 410-922-6680. Let me know how you feel. The mask really, for me, okay, really robs you of not only your identity. I've seen people up here. I've seen my neighbors, and then I don't recognize them. You look right into somebody's eyes. Your face is your brand, and it's your business card, and your smile, and who you are. And I don't want the government robbing me of that, because I'm an expressive guy. You know, we're social creatures, and to put that mask on, it's more than just covering up, and it's not really about come on, folks, we're practicing good hygiene. And if you cough into your sleeve or your arm, you know, the corner of your arm, your elbow area, whatever, you know, we're practicing safety. Do we really need the government to regulate that kind of stuff? I don't think so. I don't want them doing it for me. I'm telling you right now. So that's the whole thing about masks. They remove our identity. You can't see a smile through a mask. People are doing cute little pictures, and where was I the other day? I think I was in Eddie's in Roland Park, and at the deli counter, and I looked over, and there was a woman next to me who had a mask on with a dog's face or something like that. The dog was growling or smiling or whatever dog, you know, he was doing. And people are getting creative with this stuff. I understand that. But, you know, so when you listen, I want you to hear the statistics about folks. No, I don't want corona. Nobody wants corona, Barbara. Nobody wants it, but the chances of me getting it are not very high. Let's talk about this. Let's go. And then Forbes magazine and Newsweek, say whatever you want about them, did some great articles recently. They were talking about the governor of New York, and they were talking about the governor of Florida, who, by the way, I think has done an incredible job. But let's go here as we're talking about reopening the country, reopening the city. Almost 60% of those who died from the virus, listen to this, folks, almost 60% of those who died from this virus were 75 or older. Almost 80% were 65 or older, okay? These are important statistics. Only 7%, this is a population of 350 million people. Only 7% of the deaths have been under age 54. I've read all the data. I've read, you know, children, and I know there are exceptions. So you don't have to go there. I know there are exceptions. But for example, kids, and I see kids running around. It's almost impossible, everything I've seen. And I've heard the experts and the scientists for kids to get it. I'm a very healthy 50-plus-year-old guy. I've got no pre-existing. So a lot of these people had pre-existing conditions. Let me share something with you about the state of New York and Governor Cuomo, who I think did a terrible job. And I think he's been a showman, not a leader, and having his brother in there and hooting and hollering and goofballing and, you know, promoting themselves. I think it was terrible. I really do. But let me share this with you. if you live if you're in a nursing home and if you die, here it is in New York, if you die in a hospital after coming from a nursing home, they don't count that as a nursing home death. Now, the nursing homes, let's get into this. 42% of U.S. deaths, 42% have been in nursing homes. And so, that's 0.6% of the population in 41 states. These are the states that report 2.1 million Americans, representing 0.62% of the population, reside in nursing homes or assisted living facilities. And so in the state of Ohio, let me give you a breakdown here. In the state of Ohio, 70% of the deaths connected to the coronavirus have been in nursing homes. 69% of those deaths in Pennsylvania have been in nursing homes or assisted living facilities. 81% in the state of Minnesota have been related to nursing homes or long-term care facilities. This is the important granular data that needs to come out, that was very slow to come out. And this is what the Governor DeSantis, Ron DeSantis, down there in Florida, has done, in my opinion, an exceptional job. And then if you look at what happened in New York, you look at the number of deaths, you look at all those people that, that were in those nursing homes that died, it's really, quite the opposite of what's going on. Newsweek did a great job of featuring the two governors and really getting into, all the specifics. This is information that we absolutely need to hear. Who are the most vulnerable? And, I was talking to Scott Collier, who's sitting in the studio with me. And folks, listen, I'm not a hard, if you are afraid, if you are compromised in any way with your health, listen, my parents are deceased, and my grandparents are certainly deceased, but, I have family and friends and in-laws and people like that who are in their 70s, near 80. We don't want anybody to die. That's not what this is, but it really is about the fear mongering, in my opinion. I can't even watch. Where do I get my information? I get my agent, I get my, I've got a lot to talk to you about tonight. Give us a call, 410-922-6680. I'm rambling on here. You're listening to the Bob Paff Show, live talk radio. We'll be back in just a little bit.
This WCBM Traffic Check is sponsored by
Ms. Swink, thank you for tuning in. It's just really, guys, I'm not here to influence anybody's opinion. I am here in support of my friends that own restaurants and out there. I drove by the Valley Inn on my way here to the station, driving from my home in Roland Park, and I saw restaurants in Roland Park that were setting up. Everybody's excited about it. It's now 6:15, and everybody was very excited. Hey, Dreama, everybody was very excited about starting. And I know, Dreama, Mark Sullivan, and I want to give a shout out to my friends at the Riverwatch, Tracy and Mark down there. You guys were made to be, Barbara, no, it's not a matter of trusting you. We just disagree. I think there's a lot of fear mongering going on. I read the statistics. I read the articles, I read the magazines. We just see this, I think, differently, and I just don't buy into it. I think there was just, when you look at the number of deaths in nursing homes and all that kind of stuff. Barbara, look at the hospitals, look at the comfort ship that came back empty. Look at the Javits Center that, there was nobody there. So I disagree with that. Anyway, let me get back to the folks that are outside. Mark Sullivan, Tracy Sullivan, you guys, I hope at the Riverwatch, I hope people are coming out and supporting you as well. Tim, so happy that after 2.5, finally been able to visit your mom. So people that are really out there, who are now able to see your loved ones. I mean, what's going on and what's gone on in these nursing homes really, in my opinion, is a crime. And Barbara, I'd like to see us talk about that. I'd like to see us about, what's happened in the nursing homes. Best Buy waterproofing is in my ear. Andrew, we got that new commercial that's running. Folks, if you live in Baltimore City, we're going to talk about this on the air. Jill Noto, thank you. Oh, Jill, don't worry about that. They're not late. I want to give a shout out to all of my Barb, I don't think it's a lie. I don't think the New York Magazine, I don't think the Wall Street Journal, I think all these people are lying. That's based on your opinion and what you're reading, and I respect that, but why are they lying? And I don't know who you're reading or where you're getting the information from. Is that is accurate? So I'm just here to present both sides of it. Folks, if you live in Baltimore, we've got a very important election coming up. I think the election is June 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, and June 3rd, I believe, is Wednesday of next week. It's a very important primary election for the next mayor of Baltimore, and the person that I'm supporting is running as an independent. Janet Rickard Davis, thank you so much, is running as independent, and we're going to have Bob Wallace in the studio with me on June the 5th, which is next Friday. Our first show in June will be with Bob Wallace, who is running as an independent in the race. So Bob will run. He will not run in the primary, of course. The Democrats are all going to beat one another up. This is going to be very interesting. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about that. They're going to beat each other up, and then whoever survives, and I've got my predictions. What do you think, Baltimore? Who's going to be the next candidate for mayor of Baltimore? Who's going to win that primary on Valerie? I don't think, TJ, I like TJ. I don't think it's going to be TJ. I don't. I think there's a place for TJ. Maybe, some things fall into place. That's all I'm going to say to you at this point, but it's not going to be TJ. Just, again, my thoughts. I think the vote's going to be split tremendously, and I'm anxious to hear what people have to say. All right, my friends, how does everybody feel about going out? June 2nd is the primary. Thank you, JT. June the 2nd, which is Tuesday, I believe, right? All right, so Tuesday is the primary election in Baltimore. Dreamer, where is our boy? Where is Mark Sullivan? I like Mary Miller, but not going to happen. Very interesting. Yeah. I don't think Mary Miller's electable in a city like Baltimore. I'd be absolutely shocked. In a population that's 60% African American, I really don't see it. Bob Wallace for mayor. See that? Clint, you're right. The state of Oregon has opened their gyms. All right, guys, here we go. We're coming back. After River Watch, Dream, are you guys down there tonight? I need to get out because I want to come down and celebrate with everybody. All right.
And now more of the Bob Paff Show on Talk Radio 680 WCBM and worldwide at WCBM.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Live Talk Radio. You're listening to the Bob Paff Show. Give us a call. I'm curious to hear. There are a lot of things going on. We've got a big election coming up on, my friend JT Mullen just pointed out, on June the 2nd, which I believe is Tuesday. We've got the primary election in Baltimore here for the new mayor. The general election is in the fall. We've got the primary election right now. But give me a call. Tell me, give me your thoughts. 410-922-6680. Folks, you can download the app if you're driving in your car and you're listening to us. Folks, follow us on Facebook Live as well. So we're all over the place. We've got our folks from Wales and all over the world that have tuned in to watch us. Lots of things going on. Curious what everybody thinks about Donald Trump now going after really Twitter, but Twitter, Facebook. And how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the president trying to regulate, for lack of a better word, trying to regulate what they can do? But let's be fair. If you post something on Facebook, it's certainly not Mark Zuckerberg himself, but Mark Zuckerberg's people have the right to remove what you say. Now, do they have the right to do that, in your opinion? Is that freedom of speech? And are they denying you freedom of speech by doing that? And clearly, we're talking about things that are not violent, that are not, vulgar, profanity, and all those things like that, pornographic, or however you want to go with that. I agree with that. But everybody's attacking the president for doing that, and clearly, when you look at this, when you look at it, the president is going. He uses Twitter a lot, and so he doesn't want Twitter to be telling him, what he can do and what he can't do. But how do you feel about that? I'm very curious. It's going to be interesting. Say what you want about this president, and I'm not going to get into that. That's not what this show is about. But the guy is certainly. is shaking things up, for lack of a better expression. He really is. I think there's everything is out there is fair grabs. Very interesting. I want to share with you, this New York Magazine cover broke my heart listening to the very old. You guys know how I feel about this and how I feel about our seniors, and it breaks my heart the way they are treated. I want to share something with you and get to here really quick. So I looked at this page, I opened up the magazine, and here's a picture of an 84-year-old at a nursing home or a senior facility in Los Angeles, California, and his son is waving to him. And this guy, think about it, 84 years old, and he's on his cell phone. He can't see his son. If you've got family members out there, you know how this is. So this man's, his life expectancy he's beyond that. He's 84 years old. And this is the end for him. This is how this guy, people don't go into nursing homes and come out. We all know that. And so this poor guy, 84 years old, this is what his life looks like, wearing a mask and talking to his son through a piece of glass. I guarantee you, and I've talked to a lot of my friends whose parents are older. Tracy Vogelin, you're exactly right. Could be mom or dad. I've talked to friends. I have my dearest friend, Rob Woodward, if you're out there, I've talked to friends whose parents say, I'm 80, I'm 85, whatever. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want the government telling me what to do if I'm going to get this virus or whatever. I feel the same way. I got to tell you that. And I'm not 80 or 85 or 70 or 75 or 65, but for this to be the final days for some of these people, it's horrible. And what happened in New York with them being herded, and that's the right expression, herded into these nursing homes where somebody said to me, it's called God's altar or God's waiting room or whatever it is. It's just terrific. I was walking the other day, as I do every day in my community here in Baltimore, and I came by, and the school where I walk, where my son went to school, I rarely see anybody wearing a mask. And people are out and they're riding their bikes and they're rollerblading and everybody's social distance. Nobody's in your face. Okay. Nobody's in your face. But again, I rarely see a mask. People are playing lacrosse, they're playing soccer, they're playing baseball, they're playing football, they're jogging, they're bicycling, whatever they're doing. And I came by 3 little girls who appeared to be about all of 6 or 7 years old, and they were all wearing masks. And it hit me as a father of 6 and a grandfather of 2. It really hit me. And I thought, is this what it's come to? Are these girls going to remember, oh, mommy, daddy, I remember when I was 7 years old and we had to wear a mask and we couldn't go out of the house without wearing a mask on. And I think of this poor gentleman here who's 84 years old, who was entering the last phase of his life. He entered it a long time ago. And this is how he's communicating with his son. It's heartbreaking. I want to share something with you. In this article by Mark Harris in New York Magazine, he calls it our fragile genotocracy. Okay, so our seniors, and it's fascinating. Listen to this. Our best hope for unseating, I don't think it's political. First I thought it was, the about to turn 74-year-old in the White House, whose reign is propped up by a terrifying, powerful cable network that serves as the plaything of an ultriarch 89-year-old. He's talking about Rupert Murdoch, is a former vice president who, at 77, won the Democratic nomination over a 78-year-old senator whom young people preferred during the primaries. If elected, he will, one hopes, work effectively with an 80-year-old Speaker of the House, or may, one worries, be thwarted by the truculent, this is political, 78-year-old Senate Majority Leader. Until then, several crucial rights, including access to health care and abortion, may rest in the survival of an 87-year-old Supreme Court justice. The point is, we've got these people late in their 70s, and these people into their 80s. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I think Barbara Feinstein in California is 84 or 86, okay? Nancy Pelosi's 80, I believe. I believe she now crossed over into her 8th decade. Fascinating to me. It goes back to the whole thing. If you're 50 or 55, you try to get a job, forget about it. But if you're 80, you could be the president of the United States. It's crazy. Anita, we've got a phone call here. We've got a caller, Bruce in Baltimore, that wants to talk to us. Bruce, you're live on the Bob Paff Show. So you have a question or comment for us?
Good evening. A couple of quick comments.
Sure.
So with the mask, I see these people driving in the cars and the vehicles with the windows.
I shouldn't laugh. Go ahead. Yep.
And then I used to be a runner. That's been decades ago. My knees can't take that. I'm 66 anyway.
Yeah.
But I see somebody I seen people running had a mask on.
Yeah.
Which obviously, when you're running, you understand you're trained to run. Part of it's controlling your breathing. A mask, really. So the other thing I was going to make a comment on Twitter and what's going on with that.
Right.
So yesterday's New York Post, Metro Edition, Thursday, May 28th.
Okay.
The front cover has this person smiling and grinning. Joel Roth. And this is the stuff he's put out there. I'm just saying we fly over those states that voted for a racist tangerine for a reason. 10:03 p.m., November the 8th, 2016.
Yeah.
And then underneath that it says, yes, that person in the pink hat is clearly a bigger threat to your brand of feminism than actual Nazis in the White House.
Yeah.
6:33 p.m., January 22nd, 2017. And on page 9, it goes into the details of what some of those at least social media outlets are.
It's Bruce. It's going to be. Thank you for calling in. I really appreciate that. I appreciate your comments. Bruce raises a good point. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to clearly be very competitive. Our president relies very heavily on Twitter. But again, and I try to maintain the balance. We try to go down the middle of the road here. Not that I'll have personal feelings about all this stuff. I do, and I share them with you. Again, I'm not supportive of the mask. I think what's happened to these people in nursing homes is really criminal. I think somebody needs to be held accountable. If it were your mother or father or your grandmother or your grandfather, you'd be outraged at what happened in those people being forced into nursing homes. And you look at the data, 42% of all U.S. deaths are from people living in, nursing homes, long-term care facilities, and the percentage of the population, 2.1 million Americans, representing 0.62 of the population, reside in nursing homes or assisted living. So it's really quite criminal what's going on. So I'm glad to see that some of that granular data will come out. And listen, here's the other thing, folks, I want to tell you. So if you want to draw it between political lines, if you look at the states that have done it well, in my opinion, you certainly have to say, Texas has done a great job. Georgia has done, a good job. Look at those states that are Republican governors. And then if you look at the states that haven't done it so well, where they've had really big problems, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, California is a train wreck. All the Republican governors, Democratic governors. So it's not insignificant. It's not political to talk about that. But again, what's happened in the nursing homes is really criminal. We're going to come back with you in just a little bit. I want to talk about this mayoral election that's coming up. You're listening to the Bob Paff Show, live talk radio. We'll be right back. Thank you, everybody, so much. Sorry I couldn't acknowledge Danielle. Florida is doing very well, and I've got loved ones in Florida who are close to 80 years old, and so I'm very concerned about Florida, and I monitor what's going on in Florida. But Florida has really done a great job through this whole thing. I may share, again, some of the statistics. I also want to talk to you guys about going out, some of the things that I've seen. Where's my Wall Street Journal article about, people that are sitting in the, they call them here while we're doing this on Facebook Live. What are they calling this thing? A plexiglass bubble that a restaurateur created. So if you go into a restaurant, Scott, I don't know if you guys can see this. You go into a restaurant, you basically sit in this bubble. Now, I'm sorry, you can see this person, but doesn't that remove the intimacy of, the gathering, because you're basically caged in, for lack of a better expression. I don't want to dine like this. And so that's the other concern about it. As I'm out there and I talk to my friends, Mark Sullivan and Patrick Russell and Nancy Longo, how do you guys feel about this? You've now had to equip up, not staff up, but you've had to equip up. You've had to get all masks for all your staff and gloves and all these things. And if you're out there buying plexiglass bubbles, as the Wall Street Journal reports here, so you can entertain your guests. I mean, why? I want to read this, a love letter to restaurants, what we lose when we can't go out to dinner. It's really, it's crazy. It's that social intimacy, Mary Zimmerman, Judy Lockett, it's that social intimacy that we crave and that we need. Everybody has seen and heard about the suicides. There was an article, there was something that came out. It was a video, actually, of an ER doc who was talking about the escalation Mary, that's exactly right. What do single people do? And I'm going to bring that topic up when I go back on the air. The escalation of suicide and depression and all those things. Patrick Russell, we're shouting you out, my brother. I hope you're down there doing it well, and I hope you're knocking it out of the park. Patrick, we're talking about people. Patrick, I don't know if this affects you. People that are operating in these bubbles. You have to put a bubble over people to. Patrick, I don't know how your customers feel, but I don't want to sit in a bubble if I'm going out to dinner. It's ridiculous. Folks, we're in our long commercial break here. We're going to come back with you in just a little bit, and we're going to talk about this mayoral election. This mayoral election is critical. You've got to get out. You've got to vote. You've got to support your candidate. I'm supporting Bob Wallace. Bob will be in the studio with me next week, and he's going to talk about, and we're going to take him to task. I'll take him to task and talk about why him, what he's going to do, with Baltimore. So Baltimore had to fix Baltimore. Interestingly enough, and the timing is perfect, on June the 12th, we're going to have Steve Jeppe, who is the owner and editor, publisher of Baltimore Magazine. Steve will be joining us, and you better believe I'll be prepared for that. We're going to pour through this whole thing. Carol Dye, how are we supposed to sit at a bar? Crazy stuff, folks. I mean, Patrick Russell, how do you feel? You've got your staff, you have to buy more stuff. I talked to Nancy Longo the other day, and she's buying tables for the outside and umbrellas and tents and masks and gloves and all this kind of stuff. It's just really, really crazy. The other thing, too, is I have seen things that, Fauci's going back and forth. I know a lot of people love Fauci. I take it all with a grain of salt. I listen to it all. But I've heard people say that masks don't do anything. So, Barb, if you're out there and you're still listening, some people are probably angry with me and probably tuned out. I've heard people say, and I've heard Fauci, that it is very, very limited, if anything at all, that masks are doing. But if it makes you feel more comfortable doing that, then do that. I was hoping you would do the Baltimore Magazine article. Wasn't prepared, Valerie, really, to do that. Paper plates, utensils. Tammy, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. It is, but I just don't want it to get to the point that this becomes what we'll say is the new normal. I refuse to look at it that way. You talk about fear. I'm really afraid that people are going to just accept that this is the way it's going to be, and we're going to walk around and with masks on all the time. How do you smile at somebody through a mask? You put a picture of a dog on your face. I mean, Valerie, I want to be prepared for that, and I wasn't prepared. I picked up Baltimore Magazine very late. Drew Exeron, there he is, the new daddy, Drew. I hope you guys are doing well down there. You and Chelsea and the baby are doing well. So I miss you guys. All right, folks. So it's the reopening. It's the reopening of America. I think every state in the union, correct me if I'm wrong, is open. There were some states that never closed. South Dakota, I think, never closed. I don't think Alaska ever closed. Alaska had like 50 cases, maybe. I've been making appointments, nursing homes in Florida, and they bring outside. Clint, that's great. That's wonderful that you could do that. Test tube dining, food served with a 6-foot. Test tube dining food. I like that. I see we'll chime in on this disposal, not recycling. Elizabeth Corral Paff, thank you for tuning in. All of you guys, I love it so much. And thank you all for your support. Andrew Waltman, Best Buy Waterproofing. My friends, give Andrew a call. He's been such a brother and supporter of the show, and just everything. James Steed down there in Florida, who's been incredible to us as well. All right, coming back to you, folks. Here we go.
Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
All right, folks, we are coming back.
And now more of the Bob Paff Show on Talk Radio 680 WCBM and worldwide at WCBM.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. You're listening to Live Talk Radio, the Bob Paff Show. We're talking about lots of things. We're talking about reopening the country. We're talking about reopening Maryland. We're here based in Baltimore and what that looks like, okay? So, Kim Rice DeGrosse, thank you. All of my friends, follow me on Facebook. You guys follow me on LinkedIn or wherever you're tuning in the show and downloading the app and following us. but what does it look like? Kim, I understand Montgomery County. I think the county executive in Montgomery County you've entered maybe phase 1 and started lifting some restrictions out there. But what does it look like? And I don't want to say the new normal. I don't want to wear a mask. I don't. I will do it if I have to. But I'll tell you what it's done to me. It has limited my going into stores, whether it's grocery stores or not. I will consolidate more of my shopping. Patrick Russell, Nancy Longo, my friends who are in restaurants, I do not want to sit in your restaurant wearing a mask. How do you do that? Do you sit in a restaurant? How do you have a cocktail with a mask? I'm a martini guy. If people talk about straws, I'm not going to, sip my martini through a straw. You'll know, so people saying walking around in bubbles, I'm not going to do it. And if that means that I'm taking my chances, I'm putting my life at risk, then so be it. But I'm not going to have the government tell me what to do, particularly when I don't believe a lot of the things that are really out there. So, Patrick Russell, how are you guys dealing with this? I'm looking at this thing in the business, the Wall Street Journal, this cafe in Paris that has these plexiglass bubbles. Do you want to sit under a bubble, folks? Do you want to sit behind a shield? How do you get out there? How do you... my friends, why do we go to restaurants and why do we go to bars in the first place? We go there because we're sociable creatures. We're sociable. We use them to celebrate. I have 6 children. We've done everything around crabs. It broke my heart that we couldn't have my daughter's 18th birthday at the Riverwatch celebrating with our friends down there, okay? We cannot allow this to be the new normal. You might really have 2 different factions where you have some people that are the stay-at-homers. And the stay-at-homers, I made this comment, the stay-at-homers, in a lot of cases, Scott Collier and I were talking about this, they become very angry. They're very angry, and they got to figure out what's going on there. I think there's some cognitive dissonance there. I think they're staying home because they've been told to, because a lot of those folks like rules. If you have a health issue, please stay home, and I get that. But if you don't, and you're choosing to stay home out of fear, that's a whole different story, folks. Let's be honest with each other. And don't impart your feelings on me because I'm not afraid. All right, we want to take a caller. We've got Bill in Glen Burnie who wants to talk about mask. All right, Bill, you're live on the Bob Paff Show, sir. You want to talk about mask?
Yeah, I've been listening to you talk about
Yeah.
this. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you. Sure, you're...
The only time I've worn a mask since the whole thing started, like you said, when I have to.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I've been working in school, and you got to wear them in there, and they only have no more than 10 people in the building.
Right.
Which is ridiculous because of the size of these buildings.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Bill, how does it make you feel? Do you feel violated? Do you feel like Big Brother is telling you, Bill, how to do it, what to do, and all that? Do you feel violated?
I do. And the big problem is, for 35 years, people have been running around taking a bath in antibacterial.
Right.
It's killing their immune system.
That's right.
So they're telling me that I need to wear a mask to protect them from me.
Right, exactly.
You're the one killing your own immune system.
Right.
Don't say it's me.
Right.
And yesterday, I went to continuing education.
Yeah.
I did it again today.
Yes.
And I'm sitting in this room wearing a mask.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm breathing my own.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking I have bad breath now, Bill. I need to wash this. My son gave me a ski thing because that's what I'm not wearing one of those surgical masks. They're awful. So I put this ski muff on my face. But I was like, I must have bad breath because this thing is raunchy. You know what I mean?
Well, what it is, you're breathing that carbon dioxide.
That's right, Bill.
And
right?
What it did was it started making me extremely hot.
Yeah.
Today I went in there and I forgot to carry the mask in with me, and nobody said anything. But I went back out and got it.
Yeah.
And I come in there and I'm sitting, and I'll tell you what else it did to me. I'm sitting there and I'm getting hot, and it's putting me to sleep.
Wow. So it's really cutting off that oxygen. You're not getting a good flow of oxygen, Bill. Right?
Right. So I took the mask down. And nobody said anything.
Right. That's the other part. You got to worry about being attacked.
I had it on my chin.
Yeah.
Nobody. But the thing of it is, the healthiest people in today's society are construction workers. We go out on a job.
Interesting. Yeah.
And we don't have bathrooms with with running water. We got spot pots.
That's right.
We don't have places to wash our hands 15, 20 times a day for 25 seconds.
That's right.
And we're the healthiest people in the society.
Yeah.
And you know who else is? You got auto mechanics, people that have jobs where they get dirty.
Bill, that's a great perspective, and nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about the construction industry, which has continued, hasn't shut down. I went by a bunch of guys in Fells Point the other day. It was about 6 of them. They were all standing around. You know that joke about watching five guys watching one guy drill a hole. They were standing there chatting. Nobody had a mask on. They looked happy. They were smiling. They were engaged, and like you said, they're healthy.
Right, and they were less. They were about 6 inches apart. They were carrying the
That's right.
6-inch roll.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Now it's got to stop, Bill. Listen, thank you. I got my board is blowing up here. I got a lot of people that feel very passionate about this. I agree with you, sir, and I just feel that violation. I also feel like, are people going to? There have been fights. I mean, there have been fights. You've seen it on the media. People shouting to get out of the store and the grocery store if somebody doesn't have a mask and all this stuff. It's really been quite disturbing and quite crazy. Bill, thank you for calling. We've got Greg on the line in Baltimore. Greg wants to talk about the reopening. How are you, sir?
Hey, Bob. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. You got a question or comment for us?
Yeah, I just want to say, I'll say straight up that I'm a COVID patient right now.
Okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing fairly well. I'm not in the hospital or anything like that. Dealing with fever, body aches.
Good to hear. Have you been hospitalized, Greg, or you've been suffering this out at home with your family?
I have not been in the hospital at all.
Okay.
Just been going through my primary care, but I did tests for it. And,
okay. Well, our prayers and our thoughts are with you, Greg.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to say,
sure.
You know, with the masks and whatnot, I started wearing a mask before it was required. I took all the precautions and everything,
yep.
And I still came down with this virus. And
wow.
You know, it's not fun. You know, my doctor told me I have the stay-at-home edition of the virus.
The stay-at-home edition. Bill, do you mind me asking, are you otherwise healthy? Were you compromised going into this? Were you more susceptible to catching a virus?
No, I don't have any underlying conditions.
Okay.
Or anything like that.
And age-wise, where do you, without getting too personal, where do you fit into that? Are you above 75 or 65?
No, I'm in my 30s.
You're in your 30s. Okay. So you're really in that low percentage there of folks who have gotten the virus. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And I started feeling symptoms on the 9th of May.
Okay.
And what is it today? The 29th.
Today's the 29th. Yeah. So how are you feeling? And I've got to take another caller here. This is very good information, but I want to close it out on how do you feel about the reopening? So you were wearing masks before it was mandated. I'm going to use that word, and you still got the virus. However you got it, and your docs are working with you, and it sounds like you're on the road to recovery. How do you feel about the reopening and people going out and socializing? Where do you come down on that, Greg?
Well, I feel like it at some point it has to happen.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not going to happen now. I mean, the masks aren't helping people.
And I think Dr. Fauci, I think when we got to go, I got to take a break, Greg. I think Fauci said that. I mean, there have been several times that people have said, you know, these things don't work and we don't know and people don't wear them the right way and they touch them and do all these kind of things. So, Greg, listen, thank you for calling. We wish you, I'm sending you my prayers. We wish you well, sir. It sounds like you're on the road to recovery. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself, Greg. We're thinking about you. Thanks for calling, sir. Folks, we're going to be right back in just a little bit. You're listening to the Bob Paff Show, Live Talk Radio. We'll be right back. Alfonso, you can't hear my guest speaker because you're watching me on Facebook Live. You've got to download the app. I normally do that housekeeping. Folks, if you're not hearing my guest callers, you need to go to WCBM.com or you need to download the app. If you're watching me, Alfonso Todd, on Facebook Live, you're not going to hear the callers because they come in through the switchboard. So this is not, I'm not doing this from my kitchen or it's not a podcast. You call into the station, and that's different than what I'm doing here. So I apologize, everybody. Mary Zimmerman, you're right. Go to the website, live streaming, Alfonso. That's the best way for you to do it, my friend. I apologize for that. I normally announce that several times. The discussion's getting heated. I've got more people on the board. We just had, Alfonso, I'm going to share with you. We just had a guy, Scott, I think he said in his 30s. We just had a guy call in his 30s, and he's tested positive for the virus. He was wearing a mask before he was told to wear a mask. And we know the incubation period, you can test negative one day and test positive the next day. But this gentleman, Greg, said that he got the virus while he was wearing the mask. And so he supports people reopening and obviously being safe, and he's being treated at home. He's not been hospitalized. He's being treated at home by his primary care physician. But his comment was that the mask didn't help him at all. And again, a lot of you, we talk about people driving down the road with their gloves on and their mask. I saw a guy the other day driving, all of his windows were up. He must have been dying in that car. And he had a mask on and he had gloves, and he's driving down the road. It was really crazy. So I don't know how people breathe. We're going to come back. We're going to have about 10 minutes or so. How does he know that? Mary, how does he know what? About his doctor diagnosed him, and his doctor knows what he's doing, Mary. So he's under the care of a physician. Jill, I would, bacterial, you mean his or this coronavirus? I mean, this is a bacteria, but I'm imagining that's what this guy got. This is a bacterial virus. All right, folks are feeling very heated about this, but you know what? It's going to happen. It's going to continue happening. We're coming back to you a little bit. Now, I think what you're going to see, is the floodgate opening. Thank you, Mary, for that clarification. You're going to see the floodgate opening now with things really just opening up entirely. I was supposed to go to Florida on June the 22nd. I've delayed my trip, although I'm very comfortable going down there. I'm going down to visit a couple of people who are close to 80 years old, and I don't want to put them in a position. That's really what it's about, folks, in my opinion. Do what you, and I encourage people on social media, do what you feel most comfortable doing. Mary, I don't know. I mean, there's no such thing as bacteria. Right, it's a virus. Katie Barb, it is a virus. All right, when we come back, we've got just about 10 minutes. I really want to get into this mayoral election. I want to talk about the significance of this. I want to talk to you about the postings I did. This cover of Baltimore Magazine here is fascinating to me. How to fix Baltimore. Bold ideas for the 21st century city. It's going to be fascinating to see what these people are talking about. Knocking down 83, school desegregation. Maybe we'll go through here and share some things with you guys. Yes, Adrian Miranda, it is a virus, folks. COVID-19. So my mistake if I said something, Jill, I think I might have said to you that it was bacterial. It is viral. The coronavirus, yes. So lots of things. So we're going to talk to you, all you guys. We're going to talk to you all, guys, about our guest next week. Bob Wallace is going to be on the show. Bob is running as an independent. Bob is a businessman. He's got a wonderful story. We've had Bob here in the studio. He will be joining me next week. I'm going to pour through this article and talk about, let's see who wrote this article here in Baltimore Magazine. Not really sure. Don't see an author being credited for this. There, you've got to look at Bob Wallace, okay? Yep. JT, that's what they're talking about. Knocking down 83.
And now more of the Bob Paff Show on Talk Radio 680 WCBM and worldwide at WCBM.com.
Hey, folks, welcome back. You're listening live Talk Radio Bob Paff Show. Nita, I'm going to go to Pete really, really quick, and then we've got to get back to... Hey, Pete, how are you, my friend? Down there in Centerville.
Hey, listen, most important thing is I got my Trump cap on. It says 2020 Trump, keep America great, and that's what we got to do.
There we go, brother. Listen, I wanted to get you in, but I'm coming down to the end of the show. I've got to talk about this mayoral election, buddy. Thank you, sir. Be well down there.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Pete. All right, folks, we've got really, everybody's weighing in here. You know, my friends that follow me on Facebook here are weighing in. This is probably the most important mayoral election in my lifetime. And why do I say that? 2019 was a record year for homicides in Maryland, okay? 2020 is on pace to beat that. We're doing the same thing over and over again. Jack Young is done. He's toast. He'll be lucky to come in fifth. Okay, this vote is going to be split. You watch what's going to happen in this election, okay, with what's going on now. Can Baltimore City, that's 68% African-American, are they going to elect a white woman in Mary Miller? An affluent, successful financial, backing. She's run and thrown Obama's name out there. Obama hasn't endorsed her. She's done it and Biden's doing it as well. When I worked for President Obama kind of a thing. So you've got her. She's going to get some traction. Again, 68% of Baltimore's population is African-American. So, and Mary Miller's going to get, let's say she gets all the white vote. And the rest that's left is not just the white vote. You've got Hispanic, you've got Asian, you've got other cultures in there. So you've got Mary Miller, you've got a lot of people liking TJ Smith because TJ is passionate, he's raw, he lost a brother to homicide in this city. I've talked to him, I know how he feels, I feel his heart, I get it. He hasn't really built anything, he hasn't run anything, and so he's been part of the system, and he would tell you otherwise, but again, I love his passion. This is not, I'm just really dealing with reality here. You've got this guy Theroux, who has run for lots of different things. Who else you've got? You've got the Sun came out and endorsed Brandon Scott because who else were they going to endorse? And then, of course, we've got Sheila Dixon. And we can sort of end it on that one right there as far as a lot of people. She came very close to beating Catherine Pugh and actually, I think, called for a runoff. And so there are a lot of people that feel, listen, I believe in second chances. I do. And I think when she was here, it's a shame. And it wasn't just that gift card thing. It was other things that she was, in fact, doing that she was found guilty of doing, giving deals to this one and the contractors, multi-million-dollar things, folks. We're not talking about $50 gift cards, but there are a lot of people that are going to vote for her. This is a city that likes the name recognition. They're out there on the street. A lot of these folks they make it. And I'm going to call it a sense of false pride. A lot of people think when you look at the demographics that you're in it for me and you're helping me, you're not. We've got to look at the history. You've got to look at the history or we're going to wind up repeating it. I'm going to vote for Bob Wallace. Bob is running as an independent. The vote's going to be split on June the 2nd. Okay, so these are my thoughts, because every candidate that I just mentioned to you is going to get a segment of those votes. They're going to split it. So Dixon and Miller and TJ and Scott and Theroux. Think about that. All of them have their supporters. Drive through any particular city or jurisdiction in the city, and you're going to see certain signs. If you go into North Baltimore, that is primarily white, affluent, you're going to see Mary Miller signs. That's what I've seen as I drive through here. I'm asking you, and we're going to have Bob on the show next week. The guy that I like is a businessman. I think the city really needs to be run like a business. We have had career politicians in this city for too long. Every person that I mentioned to you has been in the system and part of the system forever. And guess what? In Baltimore City, the system is broken. It has failed everyone. And it has failed, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go on a limb here. It has failed that 68% of African Americans here who deserve better. So Bob Wallace and I have talked. We have failed the Squeegee Kids. We've failed them. Okay. I know how passionate everybody feels about that. All right. I know that. But we have failed a lot of people in this city, and everybody is they're looking out for themselves. They're lining their pockets.
4 minutes.
They're going on to the next highest election. Brandon Scott ran for lieutenant governor last year. Give me a break, okay? A lot of these people, folks, be smart in this election. Think about it. We need, Mary Zimmerman, I hear you. Bob Wallace is a guy who came up from the bootstraps. He grew up in Cherry Hill, in the projects over there in Cherry Hill. He's went on. He's got a terrific Ivy League education. Doesn't make him, that alone doesn't make him right. You've got to have a servant leadership and a servant heart, and you've got to get back to the community. It's about not forgetting where you came from. And so really, I've got a son at the Ivy League. It's not about that. Okay, that alone makes you well educated. Bob is certainly well educated, but we've got to get away from these politicians, these lifelong politicians like the Nancy Pelosi's or the Mitch McConnells of the world who have been around forever. Baltimore Magazine, and we're going to ask Steve Jeppe about this when he comes in, and I'm going to talk to Bob Wallace when he comes in next week. Some of the things they're talking about between a rock and a hard place. After decades of isolation, segregation, and stagnation, the hard boundaries in and around Baltimore need to come down. This guy, whoever wrote this article, I can't find anybody to attribute it to, knocking down 83, school desegregation, magnet schools in the city-county line open to students in both districts can be a start. Build the red line, all hands on deck. I'm going to pour through this, I promise you I will, and we're going to get more information on what these folks think we need to do. I'll tell you what we need to do to fix Baltimore. We need to roll up our sleeves. We need to build the bridge, the gap between West Baltimore and East Baltimore. It can't live or die on the success of Harbor Place. It can't. It's one city. It's not that big. It's now less than 600,000 people. We had more people in Baltimore City in the late 1950s than we do now, okay? And so we've got to come together with all this. We've got to stop the racial tension and the racial anger that I grew up in the 60s in this city, folks. I've been victimized by that, if you want to use that term. I've experienced that firsthand. We've got to rise above that. We've got to think what's best for the city, regardless of the color of anybody's skin. What's the content of their character? I'm going to use that term, but it's so true. We need servant leaders. We need people who are not looking for the next highest office or the next $1 million. Bob is a successful guy. He didn't have to do this. He's doing it because he wants to do this, okay? We need sophisticated, polished, well-educated people who can bridge that gap. They can get invested. Why don't investors want to come into Baltimore? Because they're afraid to. They don't want to lose money doing all this kind of stuff, okay? And so they're all the things that I'm telling you about. So please get out there and vote on June the 2nd. It is a critical election. Bob is running as an independent, so you'll see him in the general election. But it is a very important time that we're doing this. Critical time here in Baltimore. So in the time that we've got left, I want to just shout out to all of our restaurant owners, my sponsor, who's a small business guy himself, Andrew Altman Sr. You know, we love you and we're grateful for everything that you do.
1 minute.
Everybody, Patrick Russell, Nancy Longo, all the folks down there in Fells Point and wherever you are. You guys, this has changed the game, but don't let your guard down. Hang in there, stay in there, support you, and I love you. And we will turn this thing around, folks. We're coming out of this. Everything's going to be open. We're going to get beyond this. Be positive. Hang in there. Tune into the show next week when we've got Bob Wallace and then we've got Steve Jeppe. So we've got a lot of great things coming up, everybody. So, all right, take care. Be safe out there. We love you. I know it's hot and humid. The weather's supposed to cool off a little bit. Everybody, continue to tune into the show, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Thank you, David Patro. I appreciate that. Thank you all so much. Gene Barnett, thank you. Carol Dye, my friends out there, all of you that support everything that we do, that are really there for us on a moment's notice. I want to thank Scott Collier, who's here from Dundalk TV, who's being with us in the show. And give a thank you, Mary Zimmerman. You're right about that. Bob did the show. I know you said you heard him on C4, Mary, but I don't know. He was on my show before that. Bob was on my show about a month ago before he even announced his candidacy. I'm glad to see he's making the rounds. He's a terrific guy. He's exactly what we need. He's extremely bright, very well educated, very successful guy who's got the right story. Everybody be out there, get out there and have a cocktail on the porch or the patio or whatever. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. And we will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. Love you. Take care. Bye-bye, Jackie O'Rourke. Jackie O'Rourke. See ya. Woo. I'm sweating. Here we go. You got a lot of stuff, Scott. 275.